Online. We're Zooming. Yes. Hey, how's everyone doing? It's Friday. I don't know where my head is at. I don't know what planet I'm on anymore. It's an anxious Friday. Smoke is in the air in Southern California. Smoke is in the air all over the West Coast. Things are on fire. You know, how do you deal with these type of things with your brain? How do you address these type of issues? Like, what do you do to make yourself feel better when you look outside your window and everything's totally effed in the A? These are questions that I have for myself, and these are questions I ask my friends. My name is Neil Patterson. I'm a guide. This is SUPcast episode number 52. Number 52, the podcast I started a year ago in my van. And now we're Zooming because it's COVID, and it's still COVID, and COVID is a thing. And today we have Beebs, singer-songwriter extraordinaire, band leader, rock and roll human being, who we're going to talk about life, and we're going to talk about brains and what brains do. Real quick, want to give a shout out to the Wendigo Tea Company, who has been sponsoring this show for the entire year. Thank you, Mr. Sky White of the band Foxy Shazam, for being the proprietor of this wonderful tea company, which I'm currently drinking some oolong tea, the Skunk Ape, and it's got caffeine in it, which is going to be great for my anxiety. Let's just pile some caffeine on the anxiety. Let's take it to the limit. In the waiting room right now, we have Beebs, and we're going to click on this button right here, and we're going to start a conversation about life, love, and the pursuit of rock or something. Let me hit this button right here. Hello, Beebs.
Hi.
Let's go full screen. Boom.
Wait, is it supposed to be live on YouTube right now?
It is live on YouTube.
I don't see it. It's not popping up on my YouTube.
It's
It is?
Yeah. According to, I'm 3 out of 3 of 3 platforms. We're live on 3 platforms.
3 out of 3. All right,
Yeah.
cool. I trust it.
I mean, that's
I
what
don't trust my computer right now.
That's what Restream says. Also, if you're in the chat, hello Nix760. How does my microphone sound? Does it sound crackly? Because this is the flagship flight of the new microphone, the RE20, the EVRE20. I bought it. Sweetwater. Have you ever bought anything off Sweetwater, Beebs?
I have not. I usually just stick to like Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist.
Right, that works. If you buy something, Sweetwater is based in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and they'll actually call you like right after you buy something. They'll be like, "How was your purchase?" Yeah, we look forward to. It's strange. Their customer service is so good.
Like they actually care that you spend money with them. That's awesome.
They care almost too much. Like they email you. There's an actual like photo of the sales rep. They call you. They ask how your day is. It's like it's intense. It's very involved customer service.
They probably care more than the lady I buy shit from on Facebook. So
Yeah.
I might have to switch over just for the customer service.
Sweetwater's the shit. Okay, according to the chat, my mic is not crackly.
Oh, it's just my computer. So my computer's just being.
I don't know what's happening. I almost like had a mild aneurysm. I bought this one mic. It's like a Joe Rogan podcast mic, and then I sold it, and I took that money and put it towards this mic because this is the Anthony Fantano mic, who's another YouTube guy that I like, and so I'm just like, I'm gonna get the Fantano mic. I'm all pumped up, and then you're like, you're like, it's crackly. I'm like, fuck. I've been having an anxious day.
I just totally burst your bubble. I'm sorry. It's just my computer, probably.
I hope so. Yeah. Today, my anxiety is like off the chains today.
Bro, I woke up in a mood, but it progressively got better. I cried for like an hour right when I woke up, and then I felt better.
It's been a minute since I cried, but
dude, maybe that's where the anxiety's coming from. Maybe you just need to let out a good cry. Like a loud one, like a
an ugly cry.
Yeah,
one of those ugly cries.
A real ugly cry. It feels good.
Yeah, it does. It feels cathartic, but I don't know why I haven't been crying lately. I haven't been watching enough Pixar movies because if I was watching,
no, that's fine. Don't watch that shit.
If I was watching WALL-E or the first 10 minutes of Up, I would be just devastated. So
bawling your eyes out.
Yeah, I mean, have you seen the first 10 minutes of Up?
I feel like I watched it, but I don't remember.
It's
it's like the grandpa, and then the grandpa dies, and there's a hot air balloon. I don't remember.
Yeah, but it's what happens before he's the grandpa and he's all alone in the house. He has a whole life.
I don't remember remember that one.
He has a whole life and he falls in love and he gets married and they have all these plans, but then all the plans don't go according to plan and it's just all of this sadness and it's all of this letdown and then she passes away and you're just crying and that's the beginning of the movie.
Oh, yeah, I maybe did not see that. Maybe I just saw the clip notes or the trailer. But like to me that equals the equivalent of like an animated Notebook, you know? Like I never watched the movie The Notebook because I heard it makes you cry a bunch. I was like, no, I'm good. I cry enough on my own.
I haven't seen it. I'm told I must watch it, but
I pretty much don't watch. I am very emotional all on my own. And so I tend to stay away from anything that scares me or makes me cry more. So pretty much horror movies are out. Psychological thrillers are definitely out because I travel a lot, you know, or I was traveling a lot for a living. And I load out a lot in a dark alley by myself or with a couple of band members. I don't need extra scenarios in my head. You know what I mean? So I just try to keep it to comedies and kids movies mostly.
My girlfriend loves horror movies, but she used to work in New York City at a jazz club, and she would get on the subway at like 2 or 3 a.m. every night and just like have dudes following her, just all these creepy scenarios. But for some reason, like she's still just like, yeah, murder. Like
I think some people can watch it from a third-party perspective, but I have a hard time watching it without feeling like I'm in the movie and this is real life, you know?
Well, she likes to watch Intervention, and when I watch Intervention, I'm just like, I can't watch this. It's like it's too sad because even there's like at the end of every episode of Intervention, there's thank you for the subscriber, Mr. Cyanide. But at the we're on Twitch too, so all that weird Twitch jargon's happening.
Okay.
But at the end of every episode of Intervention, there's all this hope, but then like there's always this like little text spiel at the end where it's like they relapse 4 days later, they relapse 2 weeks into treatment, you know? So that show never is a happy ending. It's always like sort of happy, but then it just like gives you a little update. Oh, they died. And I'm just like, man, fuck this show.
That sounds terrible. I recently watched a series because I always thought like, damn, my generation was raised on Jerry Springer. Like we're raised on watching other people's misery publicly and air their dirty laundry so we somehow feel better about our lives, I think is the psychology behind it. And it's really fucked up. And it's really, really messed up. Like these are real people's lives and they're airing their dirty laundry out for whatever their reason is or their secrets or their paternity test or whatever. But these are real people's lives. And I think the same thing about when I see like tabloids at the grocery store, you know, of like when Stefani's getting divorced or whatever shit they're saying on the front. It's like, damn, these are real people. These are people's lives. Like you're already going through hard shit and then now your shit's just blasted everywhere. And I just kind of find it to be a little disgusting and sad, you know?
Yeah, I got this fucking hair in my, it's I just can't. I can't do it. I can't do Intervention. Even the Jerry Springer, like everyone's like, look at these people. It's a circus. I'm just like, well, they're
real people. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure some people like staged their shit just so they got a free trip to New York and got on Jerry Springer. But a lot of those people, I was watching this series recently that's deferred from my kids' movies and comedies, but it was, I don't remember. I wish I could remember the name of it. I think it was on Netflix, but it was like a series about how kind of the circus of media in general and how when Jerry Springer came out, it was the ratings went up so much from people watching other people's drama that all the other talk shows followed suit. Ricky Lake, Maury, Montel, Sally Jesse Raphael. And the first episode, I think, was about a guy who came out to another guy on Sally Jesse Raphael. And maybe they were even secretly hooking up behind closed doors. But that guy wasn't ready to come out to the world. And it was uncomfortable for him. And then he dismissed the guy's, professed love for him or whatever. And the dude ended up killing him. It was like this really gnarly thing. And it was like, it was all based around people airing each other's, secrets or whatever like, that's heavy. You know what I mean? Like, I think about, if anyone would have revealed anything about my life before I was ready to in a public setting, that would have been really bad for my mental health.
I would have been pissed.
I would have been pissed. You go through all these range of emotions. So, I try to make it a habit of not gossiping about other people or talking shit. Because I'm really good at talking shit. And so if someone starts talking shit, I'm like, I'm on that shit talking train, and I'll just go in. And I think it's an unhealthy habit to be speaking ill of or judging other people all the time. And if I spend that time, I would spend talking shit, like searching within myself for the things I don't like about myself and kind of trying to repair that. Then it would be much better time spent, I think.
Yeah, I could talk about myself. I could talk shit about myself for days and days.
Yeah, I'm very self-deprecating. Maybe that's something I need to work on before I continue to talk shit about other people, Yeah. The other day, my friend Stacey D and I from Bad Cop have been doing these Take Care Tuesdays talks on Tuesday on Instagram, and one of the things she asked me like live was, Beebs, what are 3 things you love about yourself? And it like, I was like a deer in headlights. I was like, what? And I was like, damn, am I that self-deprecating that I can't think of 3 nice things I like about myself to say to people right now? And then I'm glad she proposed the question. It definitely put me on the spot, but I was just like, man, maybe I need to say nicer things to myself, because obviously I'm having a hard time with that, I'm really good at cheerleading and telling everyone else positive things about themselves and, getting them hyped on stuff. But, I think maybe we're raised to like not talk to ourselves. Like, don't talk to yourself. It's crazy. But maybe I should be talking to myself at least half as much as I talk to other people.
Yeah, it's part of my my therapy regimen to connect with the child version of myself that lives within me. It's my new agey therapist that thinks it's a good meditation practice. So I hang out with him and I tell him he's good, because I never got that growing up. Because I got it from my mom, but I never got it from my dad, and that's what's missing, according to my therapist, is that paternal, fatherly, like, you're doing good, kid, you're good enough, and
that positive.
Never got that from my dad. Got it from my mom. It was weird. It was a weird dichotomy, because I got it mad from, like, my mom was too nice to me. Everything I did was fucking great. Woo! Like, you're the best, kid. And then everything, my dad just straight up, nothing was good enough. Nothing was even remotely.
I think that's just how parents work. They have not all parents, but I feel like maybe, and I'm not a parent, I've never been a parent, so take my opinion for what it is. Yeah. But I think people have a hard time finding that balance between being the good guy and the bad guy and the disciplinarian at the same time. So that when the roles are both present, it just goes to the extreme where one person is super fucking nice and the other person's a dick and like just bashes you. And somehow they think that will balance you in the middle,
Well, we had a whole conversation. Was it yesterday or was it 2 days ago? I don't even know what day it is anymore. But we covered so much just in that conversation. I almost wish the microphone was recording then, because and right now that we're live, I'm having a hard time thinking about it. But we definitely touched on some of this. And
well, you had originally hit me up and said, "Hey, will you come on the podcast and talk about antidepressants and mental health?"
Because Norwood said, because I had Norwood on my podcast and I told him the whole saga of me being on Zoloft for 6 years and how it turned me into a robot that didn't cry, and I didn't cry at my grandmother's funeral, and I lost empathy. It was weird. It turned me into like this and it affects different people differently, but this is just my personal experience with it. I was very disconnected with my emotions, but then I'd have these like rage outbursts. It was wild. And the weirdest part about it is I didn't even talk to a psychologist to get on that prescription. It was straight up my primary care doctor was just like, "Oh, well, you're depressed and you're an alcoholic and you're way overweight. I'm just going to throw this in the mix." And I was like, "Wee!" And then I was drinking on top of it. It was bad times. But
wow.
Yeah, but what I was saying, I told Norwood about that. He's like, "You should talk to Beebs." And this is like a year in the making, even though you didn't know it. Norwood.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, Norwood.
Norwood is the glue to the world in my world. Norwood is the glue to everything. Like he's just the greatest person of all time, in my opinion.
Norwood's the man. And speaking back to that whole paternal, like that paternal love missing thing, when Norwood offered to work with my band in 2012 and produced our album in 2013 and all that, and it was like, I don't know, in a weird way, I felt like I had a father figure for the first time in my life. And I had like a football coach I looked up to when I was in high school, and I had the guy who kind of inspired me to stop drinking alcohol is a keyboard player, plays with Leonard Skinner. I would consider him like almost my sponsor, even though we never like shook hands on that. But Norwood, I was like, I'm like, you're my Yoda. You're my you're my Obi-Wan. Tell me about life, because I just had so much respect for him, and I was such a huge fan of his band. Like when I first met him, I was afraid to talk to him. He had sunglasses. He's always wearing sunglasses. I was just like, and then I got all loaded, and I talked to him for like, I just bothered the shit out of him. He told me I needed a reality television show.
I met Norwood in a completely different way. I met Norwood through John Phillips over at Silverback. I was doing a Warped Tour press party before Warped Tour one year. I think it was like 2013 or 14. I can't remember, but John Phillips called me. He was like, hey, can you get Norwood Fisher into this press conference thing? And I was like, the dude from Fishbone? And I knew who he was because I was friends with John. And of course, I've heard of Fishbone, but I didn't grow up on their music. You know what I mean? So I didn't. I grew up in the punk rock scene, so of course I'd seen their logo. I'm sure I'd heard their music around, but I just hadn't, been super exposed to their music. So I was like, yeah, of course, like whatever he needs, all music. To me, all musicians are family, so it doesn't matter if I knew him or not. I was like, yeah, you need to get in this press conference. I got the in. Let's go, And then that day we met, and we just like became best friends. It was like we had known each other for eons, and we just stayed in touch through that. And our bands ended up playing festivals together, different places around the country, and we'd see each other. And then one day he was just saying that he was, struggling with the thing. Like the band wasn't playing a bunch of shows at this time, and they were in the middle of a bunch of stuff. And I was like, dude, why don't you just get bass lessons online? He's like, you think people would want to take bass lessons from you?
Yes.
I was like, I didn't grow up on your band, but I know that a lot of people that really respect and love you as a bass player, and a lot of my friends and musicians I play with have been influenced by you. So I'm pretty sure there'd be at least a few people that want to take bass lessons from you. So I set up his bass lessons for him, and it was out of nothing other than I just felt like this dude was my family since I met him, and I knew how to do something that I think could benefit him. So I just set it up for him and ran it until I went back on the road. And I was like, yo, you got to handle, the schedule. I got to go back on the road. And here we are 5 years later. And the very first bass student that I booked for him, he's now producing an album for, a fire funk album, which I also sang on for one track. And the dude still takes lessons. It's just been this really incredible, cool journey, and then watch it all come back and interweave, and I don't know, super cool. And Norwood's been there for me since I moved out to California. I was like, I need a backing band, and he's like, I got you. I'm playing. And then he brought John Stewart and Jay O'Keefe and Scott Page, sometimes. So he's just an amazing human being,
Yeah, and he and Wet Daddy together, that's like a rhythm section from fucking outer space. And
I renamed Wet Daddy Mr. Sprinkles.
Oh, yeah. Why's that?
Because when I was at rehearsal, the bands that I was directing back home were a bunch of my friends. They were all badass musicians, but some were just friends that weren't in a band before or weren't like touring before. And then other friends were friends from other bands who weren't playing in those bands anymore. So it was like I was really comfortable with everyone. So band directing was easy. They were my peers. I had known them for years. It was all good. And so Wet Daddy, John Stewart, a.k.a. Mr. Sprinkles, I would hang out with Fishbone or hang out with Norwood with Fishbone. He was like the only one I never really talked to because he always was just like, looks angry. It's the same thing. Always had his sunglasses on. And he was just the one I interacted with the least. And because he always just seemed so grumpy. And then we're at rehearsal, the first rehearsal we had. And I don't know, like I was super nervous because I'm now band directing for a bunch of dudes that have been playing music longer than I've been alive at this point. And I'm like, what am I even doing here? And I would get nervous and have a hard time explaining like what I needed on the drums if it was wrong, or if I needed something different. And so there was like this big piñata donut thing prop in the studio in the corner. And I would look at that and try to okay, happy place, donuts, sprinkles. And then I would try to tell him, okay, no, that's not what I need here. Actually, I need more, instead of like saying a crescendo or something, I'd be like, I need more sprinkles here, more unicorn dust here, more fairy dust here. And he always knew what I was talking about and gave me exactly what I wanted. So I just renamed him. I'm like, dude, you're Mr. Sprinkles. You always give me all the sprinkles I need.
That's beautiful. Yeah, because he backs up Downtown Brown sometimes. So I remember seeing him with Fishbone back in like '06. It was Slightly Stupid Fishbone. That was like the first time I saw Fishbone live, and I was just, Angelo blew me away. It was just like a religious experience. But then like flash forward however many years, and I'm in a room with Jon Stewart, and I'm like you said, like trying to tell someone that good that they need to do something different. You like tiptoe. You're like,
yeah, you're like,
do you think you might be able to go boop bop boop bop instead of ka 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 ka? Yeah, but it's a surreal moment, especially when Norwood was producing our record in 2013, and like Walt sang on it, and like Flying J was doing trombones on it, and I just like, I was like, I can't believe this is fucking real. Like I'm teaching these guys like my fucking song. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah, like the round robin of it all. You go from like really respecting some people on a pedestal, and then they become your peers. It's lovely. Yeah.
Totally. I'm so grateful to Norwood, just for all the wisdom, and we get into heavy debates, and we don't always agree, but we're both open-minded enough to hear each other's perspectives, and I appreciate conversation like that. And we go deep. It might be like 3 hour long deep ass conversation. And I was talking to him the other day, and I said, I hear what you're saying for sure. I can see your perspective. And I think this is true for most of the world, right? We can see each other's perspectives, but we can't always feel 100% the perspective, because that's not our life. That's not the skin we're living in. That's, so he'll explain his, side of things to me as a Black man in America. And I explain my side of things as a woman in America. And although we can relate to each other and hear each other, we don't always fully think about or see that perspective, because we don't live in that body,
It's hard
but
to.
it's really cool,
Yeah. Well, and that's how you gain that perspective is by listening to people who are different than you and hearing their story. And one of the most eye-opening things that Norwood ever told me was, I was on my podcast, and he was just telling me a story about when he was 12. He was essentially like sexually assaulted by the LAPD, and it flipped my wig back. I was just like, dude. Because I'm a white guy who grew up in the suburbs of Detroit, like I never experienced like that sort of horror. And especially as a 12-year-old, I didn't have a fucking care in the world as a 12-year-old. I like rode my bike down and like bought candy at the corner store, and we would like throw rocks in the creek and shit, listen to White Zombie on cassette tape. It's very safe, and hearing that, it's just like, wow. And that's the best takeaway from doing this show is getting all these different perspectives, and it's enriched my life with a lot of just like, I don't know, enrichment.
Well, that's what we had talked about the other day.
Yeah.
I was telling you, we have all these words, right? I've been down this rabbit hole of linguistics lately.
Yeah.
I'm like learning how many languages people speak in other places, and it's blowing my mind. Like my friend told me, like in Ghana, where he grew up, they have to speak like 300 languages. I'm like, I speak one language, and thank God the universal language of music, or I'd be super fucked. But
yeah,
wow, like. And then it just made me think about how we use words, and how we're just using words to describe our feelings and this and that. And I started realizing that to me, in my mind anyway, the word perspectives and the word dimension are kind of the same thing. And I walk through life listening to people's perspectives and not implementing, well, no, you should look at it the way I look at it. Just listening to their perspectives, because the more perspectives you hear and understand, the better you can interact with the world more effortlessly without being offended at every turn. So when I meet someone and they're talking to me, and I can say, oh, okay, my brain can recognize you think like this other person I talk to, or you have a similar perspective and way of looking at things based on your experience. And so I can then know better how to communicate with them. And then I think about how I communicated with a similar person or similar communicator in the past. And I don't get caught up on trigger words to offend me and keep me from staying in communication with the person, And I think that's important. I was talking to someone the other day too about how in America we're raised to not talk about politics or religion. And I think that's kind of crazy, because if we don't talk to each other about our thoughts or how we feel, like, how are we supposed to understand each other? That's why we're at the point we're at now. Because now you know, the climate is hot, it's election year, and people have a lot to say. There's civil rights movement going on. There's all this stuff going on, and people can't talk to each other about it because they never have before. And so they immediately just start jumping down each other's throats and freaking out and fighting. And I'm like, whoa, like, this is so not productive. You know what I mean? So, you know, I think it's important for us to share our views and our points of views with each other and just be able to hear each other and listen. And I know, you know, I've shared a lot of my life with Norwood and about, I know why he told you to talk to me about mental health stuff was because, you know, my story is that when I was young, I was adopted, and my adopted mom had her own trauma. She had a really crazy life, and she was adopted and abused by foster families and stuff. And then her husband, my dad, came from a family of 9, and
oh wow,
with an abusive alcoholic father, and, you know, and just craziness. And they're older. They were 45 when they adopted me, so they're like grandparents.
Oh wow,
for me, you know. And my mom, I don't like to put labels on things, but it seems that, you know, she pretty much had what they call Munchausen by proxy, which is where you have to keep someone sick to constantly be fixing them. Yeah, and there's a show about based on a true story on Netflix about it called The Act. It has Patricia Arquette in it. And that one, she kept her daughter sick and told her she had cancer and was bringing her to doctors, and the medical industry. I also blame the medical industry for feeding into it as well. Like, because there's plenty of times I was at a new counselor almost every week because these counselors were telling my parents, and I saw some of them as adults, so I kind of got their side of the story. But a lot of these counselors, like, there's nothing wrong with your kid. You're just projecting, and you guys need to sort out your own shit and get a hold on it and stop projecting on this kid. But my mom was like, no, she wouldn't take that answer. So she kept taking me to different doctors, more and more doctors, until she would find one who was like, wrote a book and was on Geraldo, and he's like on some ego trip. And, you know, that dude would treat me, you know? So from the time I was 8 until I was about 14 or 15, I was pulled in and out of school and locked in mental facilities, long-term mental facilities. 8 years old being the first time I was dropped off at one for 2 months. And in these places, I was always the youngest one. And this is around the time when mental medications, mental health drugs were just coming out, like Ritalin and lithium and Buspar and Prozac and all these drugs. So pretty much I just got experimented on. So, and I want to go on record to say, if you're on medication, I'm not telling you shouldn't take medication. You need to do what you feel is right for your life and work with your doctor. So I'm in no way, shape, or form trying to tell you to do anything that I'm doing. I'm just simply sharing my story. But so when I was 8, I remember, you know, they first diagnosed me with ADHD, and they put me on Ritalin. And then they're like, and I was always in all the gifted programs at school, and, you know, I was really smart and always, you know, in all these extra classes and stuff. But then my ADHD apparently, you know, was like, you're too disruptive and smart. You got to get me on drugs. So they put me on Ritalin at age 8, and then they're like, she's having mood swings. She's bipolar. And I was like, bro, you just gave an 8-year-old cocaine. That's what Adderall is. It's kitty coke. You know what I mean? So of course I'm having mood swings, you know? And so then they put me on, I can't remember. It was like Buspar, or they had me on 10 drugs at one point.
So they added them all together. They like gave you that on top of the Adderall or the Ritalin.
So it was just getting added until I was up to like 10 different drugs. I was on Haldol, Buspar, Prozac, Tegretol, Ritalin. I can't even remember all the names of all the things.
And you were 8?
And 8 years old.
Holy shit.
And then my mom would use those, like, if I didn't take my medication, she had like this token system, right? So if I took the medication every day without putting up a fight, I would get these tokens that I would collect throughout the week. And if I collected enough tokens, I could do activities with my school friends, or I could go to whoever's birthday party. It was kind of fucked up. So needless to say, I'm a very stubborn spirit, and I missed out on a lot of birthday parties as a kid because those things make me feel like a zombie, you know, like It made me feel, I didn't feel. And so as an adult, fast forward to being an adult after all that. And in a lot of these places, I was abused by staff members. I was abused by other residents, because there was times when the kids and the adults in these places intermixed, like at meals and stuff.
Oh, no.
And some weird shit happened, at those times. I had staff members abuse me. I got my period for the first time in one of these places when I was 14, and no one had explained periods to me.
Oh my gosh.
And so it was like a total Carrie moment where I thought I was dying, and the girls that were also there were like, yeah, you're dying. They're older than me, and they're just fucking with me. And then I get a phone call from my mom at the place, and she's crying, congratulations. I'm like, congratulations for what? Like, fuck you. Like, I thought I was dying, so it was pretty traumatic. So flash forward to as an adult, I ended up with a lot of medical issues. I was also in a lot of car accidents from ages 18 to 23, ended up doing a lot of physical therapy. But from being on a lot of those medications, not only did I have kidney and liver problems, but I also had coping problems, because I never learned how to cope with shit, because I was drugged up most of my life. And so it would be hard. It was such a journey and such a battle, because I was told I was crazy my whole life. And at one point they had me convinced that I couldn't dress or feed myself or do any, like, they really had me thinking I couldn't do shit for myself. It was gnarly. And that still to this day obviously has some psychological ramifications and physical, I've had a lot of medical issues in the past. So as an adult, I had, from the car accidents and stuff, and the mental health drugs, I was just really sick. At one point I had 6 specialists. I had a nephrologist, a urologist, a specialist OBGYN, because I was diagnosed with endometriosis and kidney problems, and I was having chronic kidney stones and liver problems and all this stuff. And my mom was also a nurse. So that's kind of where the story gets a little deeper, is because my mom was an awesome nurse. She went above and beyond for all of her patients, for their families. She was really compassionate. And so all the doctors loved her at her work. So she would come to work and say, my daughter is a terror, and rah, rah, rah. And these doctors won't sign off to put her in these facilities. And the doctors at work would be like, we'll do it. And they would sign off. And you know what I mean? So it was like this never ending cycle of just insanity. To the point, like, my mom would start fights with me at the house. And and I was taught through the counseling that I was going through, they're like, look, when shit gets heated, you need to walk away, take a breather, like, just walk away, And so my mom would start these fights with me, and I'd try to walk away, and she'd barricade me and say, no, we're talking right now. And then she'd wait till I'm just through the roof, fired up. And then she'd start tape recording our fight. And then she'd bring that to the counselor, And it was just such a head trip. So I, as an adult, had an aversion to any drugs, any pills, because I was still learning how to feel and process emotions. And I felt like if I didn't do that, even through the car accidents, I would refuse the pain medication, because I grew up in Florida, and especially at this time, they were just giving pills to everybody.
Yeah.
Like, that's how the opioid crisis started, I think, was in Florida. So I would refuse the pain medication, and I would just go to physical therapy, and I would use weed. I would self-medicate with weed, and which ultimately saved me from also becoming an opioid addict. And I was able to, because at this time, weed wasn't legal in Florida. And so they drug tested you when you went to the pain doctor or to my back doctor if they were giving you opioids. But because I refused the opioids, they legally couldn't drug test me. So if I would have gotten drug tested and peed for weed, my insurance, all my PIP would have dropped and would have not covered my treatments.
Wow.
I was like real calculated with this shit. I was like, okay, I'm going to self-medicate with weed and, whatever.
I think that's funny. They could just give you tons of opioids, but if you test positive for weed, they're like, that's it. You're cut off.
That's it.
That's fucking nuts.
We're not supporting this.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah. And so through my mom being a nurse, through watching how things were done with medicines, with the doctors, like, I knew for a fact, because my mom would come home and talk about it, that these pharmaceutical reps were coming into those facilities and kind of bribing the doctors with Bahama cruises and incentives and this and that to push their drugs. And my mom's bringing all these co-branded pens and clocks and goodies from these drug companies. And then I watched what I had experienced, what they had done to me. And then I just kind of started seeing it all. And then I ended up going, at one point I ended up going to EMT and paramedic school to also be a nurse, because you still follow in your parents' footsteps.
Isn't that wild? Yeah.
And I saw that in that too. And then the last straw for me, before I was just like, yo, I can't do this anymore. At this point, I think I was 22 or 23. And I was having chronic kidney stones while I was on the road. And I just kept ignoring them because I was hardcore. And I'm like, I'm not going to let anyone know how sick I am. And I'm also going through what they later diagnosed as fibromyalgia and a bunch of other stuff on the road, hiding it from my band members. And I'm just pushing through shit and really not self-caring at all.
What year was this?
Do
you remember what year that was?
I got diagnosed with the fibromyalgia like 4 years ago, but I suffered with it for a few years before that even happened.
Wow.
So there was times when I was unable to walk. I couldn't go to merch. The band was having to wheel me out in a wheelchair. That's by the time it started getting really bad, where I couldn't hide it anymore, you know? So then I end up in the hospital with a kidney stone launched and stuck in between my ureter and my kidney, and it caused my body to be septic. And I end up in the hospital for 10 days with stents and all this stuff. And my urologist, who was a real asshole, this guy had no bedside manner at all. And I'm like, this guy's a dick. But I remember them coming to me. I went in with the kidney stone pain, and they're like, okay, we're going to give you this drug called Flomax. And it's
I know Flomax. Yeah.
It's going to open your ureters so you can pass stones easier. And I go, well, what's Flomax? Like, I'm asking them, because now at this point I've gone to school. I'm more informed in a medical sense. So I'm like trying to reason with them, be like, what is Flomax? What's in it? What's it made of? What's its chemical properties? Like, what am I putting into my body? Because I'm real sensitive to that. And they're like, oh, well, it's really a blood pressure medication, but we've also found that it works in opening your, in dilating your ureter so you can pass stones easier. And I go, I don't have a blood pressure problem, so I don't think I should be taking this drug, even though you found this byproduct it's also good for. Either way, I'm in the hospital for 10 days, and they're forgetting to feed me. They have me on a morphine drip. I'm itching. I'm breaking out in hives from the morphine. No one's really coming to check on me. It was kind of crazy. And I finally, my nephrologist came in, the kidney doctor, and he's like, you need to get out of here. They're going to kill you. And I was like, he was like a real ass dude. And I was like, I'm out. And I went against medical advice. I signed myself out of the hospital and left. And that day, not that day, I digress. I ended up taking all my prescriptions they gave me. I went to the pharmacy to see how much they were. They gave me like 4 different ones. One of them was the Flomax. All the drugs were pretty inexpensive, except the Flomax was $200. And I was like, I see you. Obviously, I didn't get it filled. I get to the doctor, my urologist follow-up, and I go in the office. I see Flomax pens, Flomax clocks, Flomax everything, like branded everything in there. And I'm like, I see you. And so I didn't end up getting the medication. I start researching online how to, what kidney stones are made up of. I start researching my charts and figuring out how things I can cut out of my diet to prevent them from forming. And also, if I feel them coming on, things I can do to kind of break them up. Because at this point, I've had like 3 lithotripsies, a surgery, I've passed the bunch. It was awful. It's like the worst pain ever. And that was the day that I just decided that I wasn't going to go to doctors anymore because they were making me more sick, I felt. And so I started on my journey. And this is for me personally. This has, whatever you're doing in your life is right for your life. I just want to reiterate that. This is just my journey. But I started researching things that I could do for the kidney stones and things I could do for the fibromyalgia. Once the fibromyalgia was diagnosed, my crazy ass brain was like, oh, it's a neurological disease. I can heal it with my mind. And so I started figuring out things I could do to make that better. And I found out that a lot of those autoimmune diseases like fibromyalgia, lupus, Crohn's disease, are predominantly in women and only around 50 years old. And there's no cure and no one really can pinpoint where it's coming from. Exactly. So they have drugs like Lyrica or whatever, some nerve drugs they can put you on, but there's no cure. And I didn't want to take those drugs. So, and pain medication doesn't work. So I found out that the big causes of it are diet. Stress is the main inducer of your nervous system. So fibromyalgia is when your neurons misfire and send pain all over your body. So it's like if I stub my toe, my brain sends pain everywhere, you know? And it's really painful. There was months that I was in bed. I couldn't walk for like a month or two. It was gnarly. And I was like, this is insane. I felt like I was living in a 90-year-old person's body. I felt like I got body snatched. Like I didn't even live in my own body anymore. I was super depressed. I couldn't skateboard anymore because it was so bad. There were all the things that I did that were active, I couldn't do anymore because it was so painful. And so there was not a lot of relief for me to get out of this funk, because everything I would do to get out of the funk was like, I couldn't do. So I ultimately started going to a float tank, and that's kind of what changed everything for me, was going to a sensory deprivation tank.
Yeah, I've been in one of those.
Because everyone would be like, you need to meditate. What the fuck is meditation, dude? I might have racing thoughts. What? I don't even know what that means.
It's hard.
It wasn't until I went to the float tank where it showed me where that space in my brain lived to begin with. And now I could kind of tap into that whenever. And then I started doing CBDs and juicing. The CBDs help reconnect neurons. And so I just basically been social experimenting on myself for the last few years, trying to navigate this and figure it out. And so far, so good. Like I'm down to like having 2 or 3 episodes of fibromyalgia a year, and they always come from, I know where they come from, because my body, I realized through the journey and paying attention to my body through all of it that I'm a workaholic. That's how I've worked through all my trauma. I have to keep my mind busy. I have to be progressive. That's just how I function. That also hasn't lent the best to my self-care, because I won't take the time to stop and self-care, because I'm like, I need to keep busy. I need to hold it together. And so my body, in turn, made this system that says, hey, when you don't self-care, I'm going to start shutting down, since you're not good at managing this yourself. So I ultimately ended up quitting drinking. Not that I drank a lot, but I definitely love me some wine. I learned that, the wine was causing my system to be inflammatory. And if I would drink just 1 or 2 glasses, boom, fibromyalgia was going to happen the next day. An episode was going to happen the next day. So I quit drinking, started juicing, started doing CBD, started doing the float tank. And so now when I have the episodes, I know sugar is a big trigger for it as well. Sugar, if I eat a shit ton of candy the next day, I feel it in all my joints. My body's like, I'm on the verge of shutting down. Good job, you fucked up. So I'm grateful to my body now for creating that fibromyalgia, because I see how it really keeps me in check and balance and holds me accountable for not doing destructive things to my body. And so like I said, I pick day. There might be a night when I want to have a glass of wine or 2 with my girlfriends, and I know I'm going to have to pay for it the next day, and I better have extra time to sleep, because it's gonna trigger it for sure.
So not only do you possess this sensitivity emotionally, but your body is super sensitive as well. Like anything you put in it that doesn't align with that taking care of yourself, you notice it like immediately. Yeah, and I feel like
I'm still shitty at taking care of myself. It's still a journey. I don't have it all figured out. Like I'm addicted to sugar so bad. It's like not even funny. And that's the big. Norwood's really been helping walk me through that, because he does 0 sugar. He barely even eats fruit, like natural sugars. So he taught me. There was 3 weeks during this quarantine that I was completely processed sugar free, and good. I did it with his help and knowledge of coconut. If I got a raw coconut and cut it open and drain the coconut water is naturally from the coconut is super sweet, almost like a syrup.
Yeah. And
it curbs that craving for sweetness. And then eating the raw coconut, also another good way to curb the sweetness. And it doesn't turn, I guess something about coconut, it doesn't turn into like the same kind of sugar that other fruits turn into when they process in your body.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I'm back on the sugar right now. I'm back on the shit right now.
Why don't you do stevia?
Yeah, I could, but I don't know. I just need to train. I know I can do it. I know I already did it for 3 weeks. Yeah. So now, as of yesterday, I started working with a nutritionist. So I'm going to try, starting on Monday, going pescatarian for, you know, however long she wants me to try this for. She's a chef too. So she's going to help me keep recipes, help me keep me accountable, do workouts with me, just until I can get on some kind of routine and then try to do that for myself. I personally don't have a problem eating meat, but I think we eat more meat than we probably is good for us.
It sits in my stomach.
If we were living off the land, we wouldn't be eating meat every day. So I don't, you know, she is a pescatarian, and we were having this conversation. Like, I don't eat animals, and I said, yeah, I don't really have a problem eating animals. She's like, I watched a lot of videos. I was like, I watched those videos too, and this may make me sound like a complete a-hole, but I also understand the amazingness of plants and how ancient plants are and how they communicate and how they give us oxygen. And photosynthesis is one of the most amazing processes on the planet that we still 100% don't fully understand how it works. It's just like this really cool quantum thing that happens. And so to me, plants and animals are both important, you know? So if I'm going to feel bad about eating an animal, I also need to feel bad about eating a plant. And I just don't want to feel bad about eating, you know, in general. I want to be conscious where my meat comes from and make sure that it's sustainable. And it wasn't like one of those cows that's in Kalinga in a dirt field crammed on top of each other in the sadness of awfulness. But at the same end, I probably don't need to eat meat every day. And now that I have chickens, I don't really love eating chicken because I have this connection.
Yeah, they're your friends.
So they're my friends.
They're my friends.
I eat eggs though, you know, I don't care about that. But
do your chickens lay eggs?
Yeah, they lay an egg every day.
Okay, so are those the eggs you eat?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So you're in San Diego, right?
Yeah, I'm in San Diego.
Can I tell a little personal anecdote about when I first became aware of your existence?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I was on tour with my band. It was 2008, and we were in Orlando, Florida, and we went to fucking House of Blues. Mm-hmm. And I remember I went to the urinal, and I was drunk. I was drinking a lot at the time. It was before I quit drinking, and I haven't drank since 2008, so it's been years. But I remember looking down at the urinal, and there's a sticker on the urinal, and it's these two females pointing like ha ha ha. And it said Beebs, and her moneymakers is sticker pretty much like you got a small dick sticker. and then I walk out, and you were on stage at the House of Blues, and that was when I first I'm like, okay, so that's who Beebs is, and yeah.
That is insane that you saw those stickers.
Yeah.
Because I just found one the other day, or a picture of it, and I was like, yo, I forgot about that. So my marketing mind, which is insane, I was like, probably not the nicest thing I could have done, but it was funny.
It's funny.
I think I'm funny. You know?
I have a very irreverent sense of humor, so I was like, that's pretty smart, because I definitely.
Well, I'm like, I'm gonna put stickers in every urinal and toilet and bathroom in Orlando of me and another girl that was in the band. This girl Dominique, she was my keyboard and sax player at the time. And it's gonna be us pointing, laughing, and it's these are our money makers. We know the truth. Yeah. And I knew that if I put them in the urinals and the toilets, no one was gonna be grimy enough to get them out. You know, like they're not gonna be as grimy as me.
I ain't touching it. I ain't touching that sticker. Fuck that.
I was like, every time people pee, they have to stare at my band name. That is like my mind is blown.
It's smart. It's smart marketing. Like the toilet stickers. I mean, I'm in a band called Downtown Brown. We put Downtown Brown stickers on every toilet. You know. So
that. But I'm speechless. I don't even know what to say that you actually saw those stickers. That's hilarious.
But then fast forward to the first tour I ever did with a bigger band was with this band Polka Dot Cadaver, which it's the same guys in Dog Fashion Disco. So then flash forward to like 2014.
15.
Was it 15? You're on tour with my friends in Dog Fashion, and so it just I've always been aware of you. And then the whole Norwood thing happened, and I was working with Norwood, and then you moved out here, and it's just it's wild because you
Bro, my mind is blown.
You made an impact on me. I'm just like, oh, that's smart. And then I just remember I'm like, wow, she's playing the House of Blues in front of lots of people, and I'm talking to my buddy Mike Lowe. Mike Lowe.
You know Mike Lowe?
Yeah,
Mike
dude.
Green?
Yeah, Mike Lowe, the guy, 48 Acres guy, the guy who used to throw all those parties.
Tall Mike Lowe.
Skydiving guy. Yeah.
Okay.
You're
talking to Mike Lowe.
We used to stay in his trailer, and he had a dog named Testes who had these big old testicles, and he had a bunch of roaches. Like he doesn't live in a roach infested trailer anymore. He like owns a hostel in
in Orlando on the lake. Yeah.
Yeah. It's fucking beautiful. I don't know if you've been there, but
I haven't been there yet.
But he's like, yeah, that's Beebs.
So me and Mike Lowe go way back.
Oh yeah.
So you're blowing my mind right now. So
small world, dude.
Before I had Beebs and her Moneymakers, I was a band manager and a tour manager and a booking agent, and I did a bunch of shit, and
workaholics.
And I used to be the booking agent for this band, Whole Wheat Bread. They were a punk rock band out of
That's
Jacksonville.
the connection. And
actually, the singer Aaron from Whole Wheat Bread was my guitar teacher. That's how I learned how to play guitar. And so Mike was friends with those guys, and I think that's how I ended up meeting Mike a long time ago, way before I had Beebs and her Moneymakers.
He would always say, "You need to tour with Whole Wheat Bread." He's like, "I need to talk to Aaron. We need to get you on a show with Whole Wheat Bread," because we'd come down to Orlando like twice a year from Detroit, and we'd always just hang out with Mike Lowe because he knew the craziest, weirdest people, and we partied pretty hard.
My mind is so blown right now.
Yeah,
dude. Like, we're all so deeply connected in the weirdest ways. I love it.
Well, it's wild because this whole like independent music thing, it's like a kind of tight-knit thing. Like the more people I meet, the more they know fucking everyone I know. They played all the venues I played, et cetera, et cetera. And, like you're talking about Stacy, bad cop. I went to high school with Jenny. She was 2 years younger than me. We went to the same high school.
What?
We actually had like a punk rock ska beef in high school. And because we both were art kids, like she's really talented artist.
She's so talented.
And I was in AP art, like I went to art school and stuff, but I kind of like chased the music thing more than art. She stuck with the art thing, but I'm like I could still draw decently, but yeah, we had this like fucking ska punk beef in high school, and she would like there was this local punk club, and she scrawled like she said I was a pillow biter, like she scrawled. I mean, we were like really young. And I remember I actually brought a pillow to school, and when I saw her in the hallway, I started biting the pillow and like kind of like writhing on the ground.
Oh my god!
But yeah, so yeah, she and I know each other. It's a small world.
That's
yeah,
crazy.
And Kevin Lyman kicked my band off the Warped Tour in 2007 because we were drunk idiots, and I ran into him at some party in LA, because I was backing up HR from Bad Brains.
Mm-hmm.
And we did that for like most of 2019. Like Downtown Brown was kind of his backing band. So we would tour with HR, which is fucking amazing.
That's epic.
But then like Kevin Lyman comes up to me. I'm like, oh, I'm like, dude, Warped Tour 2007, Downtown Brown. He's like, oh, you guys were great. He had no recollection that he single-handedly booted us because one of the guys in my band actually punched a Warped Tour employee, which is just a big no-no. We were blacked out midday. It was really bad. And the guy,
not a tour you want to drink on because it's a hard, gnarly tour.
I had a death wish or some shit. Like I don't understand myself back then. I was very self-destructive, and we definitely like squandered the biggest music opportunity of our career in like one day. Just because it was hailing in the middle of the summer, and two of the guys in my band were like streaking, like running around naked. It was really dumb, really embarrassing.
I always am so grateful that I didn't start my band until later, because I think I got out all my
insanity.
Yeah, all my craziness. I feel like, I had my nights of partying with these Mind Makers in the beginning, but then once it started getting more serious, I really wanted to do a good job and and be professional. So I just didn't go there. But yeah, Kevin is like my music dad. Like dude, just me getting on Warped Tour was such a gnarly thing too, because at the time, I remember the very first rehearsal I had with the band, I was like, we're going to go on Warped Tour. And hold on. Hey, Norwood. Hello? Oh, it's feeding back. I hung up on him.
Yeah.
I wanted him to say hi to
What's
you.
up, Norwood?
my band at this time, my Beebs and Our Moneymakers was very much in the jam band scene, like in the funk jam band scene for some reason. We weren't a jam band, but we were like all of our peers and our friends. We were playing a lot of the festivals up at the Swanee River Music Park, like Bear Creek and Magfest and all these different festivals up there. And so, and at the time, my band's real into like doing mushrooms in the woods and like, taking group trips and eating mushrooms and, we're on some hippie shit, right?
Good times.
So, but I remember even before I had that set of members, I told my first set of members, oh, we're going to do Warped Tour. And I had a friend named Bob Provost, who's still a great friend of mine, and he works for Vans. He's the trade show director, and I knew him from Surf Expo, from playing at Surf Expo and stuff. And I was like, how do I get on Warped Tour? And he's like, I don't know, Beebs. I mean, I'm on the tour every year, but I don't know how to tell you how to get on there. Like, that's not my department. I'm like, okay, whatever. So the next year, we were playing Wani, which is the Allman Brothers Festival up at the Spirit of Swanee Music Park. And my band was so pumped. Everyone loves this park. It's a big festival for us. And at the same time, House of Blues calls me, who I've been working with for years before the band. I would throw shows with other bands there and had been working with House of Blues forever. They've always been really good to me and are always very supportive. We've had this good relationship. They call me and they're like, hey, Florida Music Festival is happening. And we're sponsoring a stage on Wall Street. And we want you to play the stage. It's a 30-minute set. We don't have a budget, unfortunately, but there's going to be a lot of industry people there. And, the talk you get, there's going to be exposure.
Well, you just say, yeah.
I'm like, which normally I wouldn't take from anyone, but House of Blues, like, we're homies. Like, I love them. They've been supportive. And I want to support them, too, by making them look good and putting on a dope show on the stage they're sponsoring. So it's a symbiotic relationship. I tell my band, it happens to be the same weekend as Wani. And so we're going to have to leave Wani, or like get to play our set, maybe stay for one day, and then we'd have to leave the festival early to come back to Orlando. And usually when we played festivals up there, the whole band would camp there for all weekend and go see all the bands and do all the things.
Yeah, the hippie fest thing. It's fun.
Yeah, and so my band members were like, no, we're not leaving Wani, this epic festival, to go play to a bunch of Budweiser drinking douchebags on Wall Street for free. And I was like, well, if you don't do it, you're not playing Wani with me. I'll find you people who play Wani with me. Smack. And they were like, fine, whatever. So we play Wani. We have an epic set. We leave early. Everyone's pissed at me. Like, they're all just like, fuck Beebs. We got to fucking leave this badass festival to go play this free show at fucking Wall Street. And so we play the show. Well, on my way to the show, I hear that Kevin Lyman's a keynote speaker. And I'm super pumped because he's one of my music business heroes. Because mind you, I've been doing music business way before I had the band. So yeah. And I went to Warped Tour as a kid. So I'm like super stoked. So I'm hauling ass from North Florida trying to get there for his keynote speech. I miss his keynote speech. It's 100% chance of rain. We're playing an outdoor stage. The band's behind me driving down pissed. And I'm just like, my life fucking sucks right now. Like, this sucks. And at the time, when we were playing local shows, I would have all these this troupe of hula hoopers, LED hula hoopers that would be part of every show. And they were so sweet. And they came up to, now 2 bands before us have already been canceled due to the rain. And I'm like, oh my God, the band's going to murder me. Like, they're going to murder me. And so the hula hoopers come up to me and they go, Beebs, I just want you to know, don't stress. We did an anti-rain hula hoop dance. It's not going to rain for your set. And I'm like, all right, girl, sounds good, and no shit, 10 minutes before our set, is it like they're thinking about calling it just stops raining. Winds goes from 100% chance to like 10% chance of rain in like 10 minutes.
Nice. It worked.
And so it worked. It worked. And so we played the show, and when we come off stage, Kevin Lyman's standing right there, and he's like, hi, my name's Kevin Lyman. I think you guys are the next No Doubt, and I want you on all of Warped Tour next year. And I was just like,
what did your band say?
Oh, they were salty as fuck. 2 of them quit before Warped Tour ever happened.
Oh shit!
The 2 that were giving me the most shit quit before Warped Tour.
Wow! Like, so you got this? Like, you were right all along, and they still quit.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
What the fuck? That's funny.
That's I've never. I've had like 40 members of Beebs and Our Moneymakers.
Oh, I feel that.
But I've never once fired anyone. My whole thing is like, if you want to be here, be here. But let me tell you, I don't care if the world's burning down around me. This is my sanctuary, and the vibes cannot be fucked up here. We talk through shit. We'll get through shit. If you don't want to be here and you have other dreams or aspirations or things you want to do right now, no problem. I'll support you. I'll help you with marketing. I'll 100% support you the whole way. But don't stay here and act like an asshole. Like, go on and do what you want to do, you know? And I let someone who really wants to be here, because that's really, music is a vibe, you know? I don't want us just going through the motions. I don't want to be internally fighting and then saying positive words on stage, like feeling like a hypocrite, you know?
Yeah.
I don't want.
I've been in that situation where I scolded a band member for making a potentially illegal choice, and we had already gotten in trouble on that tour, and then I did it fucking right in front of everybody because I lost it. I'm just like, you brought drugs.
Oh, dude, I've definitely lost it. You know, arguments have happened.
Yeah, but then we had to go on stage, and it's like, I literally just yelled at this dude, and now we're supposed to be like, let's have fun.
It's conflicting in your soul, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good.
It wasn't good.
And I'm a very confrontational person, and I think that's strictly out of necessity, and maybe also because I didn't learn complete coping mechanisms. So if I don't get it out, then it just stays in, and then I just start spiraling in my mind and stewing on it, and it takes me down 10 more black holes. So I have to get out my feelings. And so everyone else in my band is pretty passive. And I would say most people in my life are pretty passive people, where I'm like, yo, there's a problem, let's address it.
You're the dom, and they're all sub. You're surrounded by subs.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's
funny.
And
so my band members, when they had problems with each other, would come to me and be like, oh, so-and-so is pissing me off. And all I would do is we'd get to rehearsal the next time, we'd all have rehearsal, and I'd be like, so you guys are having issues, like, let's talk this out. And you can't do that to a bunch of passive people because they just stare at their shoes and go, what? I don't know what you're talking about. And now I look like the asshole is bringing up a problem they don't want to admit to. So yeah, it's all, life's a learning curve, you know?
I like that when you're talking about be here if you want to be here, because I had a drummer of 5 years, and we had played hundreds and hundreds of shows. And when he quit the band, he told me, he's just straight up, I don't want to live in a bar anymore. And it was like, I wasn't mad. I was like,
can't be mad at what other people want to do.
Yeah.
I say thank you for all your support this far.
Exactly.
I encourage you in your future dreams. Let me know if there's anything I can ever do to help. My hope for any of my band members was always that would be a catalyst for any other music they wanted to do, or any other things they wanted to do. You know, that was always, I know that people are buying into my dream and helping me fulfill my visual dream and musical dream. And I know other people have other dreams too. And I think life should be a symbiotic relationship of, sometimes I'm the support role and sometimes I'm the leader of it all, and that's fine. But I think that just comes from being in production. You know, in production, most people don't even know who's putting the show together. You don't get credit for that shit. You're just behind the scenes in black doing all the hard work, or as a roadie, you're lifting the stuff, or as the booking agent, you're routing. You know, you don't get credit for all that stuff. So I don't have a problem like not getting credit for things. I just want things to happen, you know? And I would tell the band, it's like, it sucks being the singer and like the leader of the band, because you're always by proxy just separated from the band, especially when your name is in the band name. So I would tell them, like, look, dude, it doesn't honestly matter to me if 1 million people tell me what a great show it was. What really matters in my heart is how you guys feel about the show. You know what I mean? I don't let that shit get to my head. And if, you know, I just kind of look, I'm not comfortable being the center of attention. I come from theater, so I'm used to putting on a costume and playing a role and being comfortable in that realm. But it's not like I'm like, hey, everyone, look at me all the time. Oh. And so I liked having other people dressed up on stage and dancing with me, because that took some of my stage fright away. Like, oh, good, everyone's not just staring at me. There's other things going on stage. And I just had to convince myself in my mind, like, I'm in my own brand. I'm like the check mark is for Nike. I'm the face of the brand, but it doesn't mean that I need to, you know, I don't need to be the center of it all the time. It's just, I'm just playing this role. And it's the same thing when I'm helping other bands or tour managing. I still love doing stuff for other bands and doing marketing. I have a marketing and production collective with my business partner called Xylem, and we make music videos for other people. And most recently, we've been working on this series for the drummer from Slightly Stupid, Rimo, and doing his live drum clinics. And I enjoy being a supportive role in any way, you know what I mean? So I very much understand that we're all just being supports in each other's worlds at different times. And then hopefully we can, you know, other people will be there for us, for our dreams too. It's not about the world revolves around me and my ideas. I know other people have other ideas and dreams too, you know?
Yeah, it's the most mind-blowing thing for me when I was like I actually like took a step back and I'm like, wow, these people have given me hundreds of days of their time for not a lot of money because they are like, I want to be involved in this. And that's such a blessing. And
such a blessing. I'm so grateful to every person who's ever played for me. Like, despite petty arguments we got into, despite how they left, whatever happened, like I'm so grateful because they gave me moments in time to capture my emotions and my feelings and be on this incredible journey with me that was full of things money can never buy, you know?
Yeah, and looking back, because like we talked before about being present in the moment, I've toured so much and played so many fucking shows, and a lot of times I was always thinking about what's next. But looking back, it's like, dude, I spent like
that was it.
Exactly. I spent the best years of my life with some of my favorite people, like acting like a total ass and having the fucking best time on stage and having all these adventures and traveling everywhere and meeting everyone that we would form these like lifelong friendships with, and it just. Yeah, like my one regret is that I wasn't more present in those moments, being like, "This is the best. This is as best." Especially now that Corona's a thing. It's
same. No, me too. I feel the exact same way about most of the years I toured with Beebs and our Moneymakers, but I also can't fault myself for not 100% being present because I was in an independent band. I'm tour managing. I'm the booking agent. I'm the manager. I'm the promoter. I'm the front person. I'm the costume designer. I'm the stage set designer. So I'm managing a lot of things. And so I look back and I think the same thing, like, fuck, I wish I was more present, but I don't know that I would have been able to be any more present than I was with wearing all those hats, you know?
And that's the thing is I was in the business of trying to push it further and get the better opportunity. And you know what I'm saying? Like, and you know, put on the best show we possibly could, sell the most merch. Like I just wanted to succeed. And that goes so much of that goes back to the whole dad thing. Because
some same for me. Like my parents told me I couldn't do shit for myself and had me convinced I couldn't do anything. So that made me a severe overachiever where I was like, look, I can do everything.
Yeah.
You know,
like I'm not gonna do what you told me I should do, but I'm gonna do something totally weird and I'm gonna be awesome at it and I'm gonna go really hard and I'm gonna make my dreams come true. I mean, it may not have happened like with all the sprinkles and glitter and all the, you know, fucking accolades that I wanted, but dude, it's like I've had a pretty cool life.
We did it.
I've had a pretty cool life.
We did it. We made up our dreams and we lived it with a bunch of rad people who were there for us in the moment, and we will have those memories and that music forever, and that, you know, that will live out there. And now, you know, as I've gotten older, I've realized I've gotten better at delegating. For a long time felt like I had to do everything myself because that was the only way it was going to get done right. And every time I would try to let someone help me, I felt like they didn't live up to my expectations and I'd have to go back and redo it. And now, all these years later, now all my peers are badasses. We've all been in this game for 10 to 15 years. So I don't need to micromanage or explain anything to anyone. I just need to play up to people's strengths and trust that they're going to do the best job they can if they want to be involved. And so I've gotten a lot better at delegating so that I can remain present in my own life because I'm not feeling like I have to do every single job, you know, and I don't.
And that's the other thing too. If you're stretched that thin, it's hard to do all those jobs well, you know?
Yeah, something's gonna suffer. That's why honestly I hate playing guitar and singing in front of people. Like I don't mind it for songwriting.
Yeah.
But like Norwood and them and Jay and John are like, come on, just play guitar. And I'm like, dude,
like,
I'd much rather be a great singer than mediocre at guitar and singing because it's hard, you know, hard to do both well. And it's not that I can't do it. And I have been forcing myself to do it more, but it's just like, I'd rather just be good at the thing I'm good at, which is singing, you know?
Yeah. And playing an instrument and singing at the same time, and it adds another layer of difficulty. Whereas I feel like I could be a better singer if I wasn't trying to play the guitar at the same time. But
yeah, it's hard. It's fucking hard.
But also, like, I don't know. I just do both because that's just what I do. I don't know.
Yeah, but you're great at both despite how you feel about it yourself. Your band is dope.
Thank you.
Your band, your energy on stage, you're such a great front person. Your energy is amazing, and you crush it.
When we played with Trulio, and I forget where we were, somewhere in Orange County, and you were there. The Wayfair, and you were there. I don't know what was going on with me, but I was like watching Trulio, and I was falling asleep. And that's when like you approached me. I was asleep, and then you said something, and you woke me up. And I
didn't even realize you were asleep,
dude. I was like zonking out for some reason. I don't know. And it was weird because one of the first things I said, I was like, "You should be on my podcast," because like you woke me up, and then that whole Norwood conversation is like the first thing I thought of. So it was odd. I feel like I was because I'm odd, you know. I'm.
We're all odd people.
Yes.
I'm a very socially awkward person.
Yes.
Like, no lie. Like that's what I've been. This is why I wear these all the time.
Yeah.
I wear these all the time. Because A, it's color therapy for me, and it just makes my mind feel better when I'm watching the world through rose-colored glasses.
Yeah.
And then B, I feel like I don't want to say. Sometimes I feel like if people know me from videos or from the TV show or from the internet, they have these expectations of how I'm going to be in person, and I always feel like I'm going to let them down because I'm not a cartoon character. I'm just a human being who is really just kind of chill in my day-to-day life. And so I feel like when I wear the heart sunglasses, I don't have to say a lot. You know what vibes I'm coming with? I'm like, I'm coming with love. And then it holds me accountable to just smiling and trying not to be awkward, you know?
Oh, yeah. My eyes dart around when I talk to people in person. Like,
oh, dude, I have this weird thing where I just like just bounce, or I sway a lot while I'm talking to people, or I'm like fidgety, or I look people in the eyes when I'm talking to them, but if I'm like really passionate about the conversation, I'll like stare off like I'm talking to someone totally different.
Yeah,
I'm such
people.
a weirdo.
When I talk to people in public, they'll straight up look over their shoulder to see what I'm looking at, and it's just
like,
and I'm just like, I'm not looking at anything. I just can't look at you for too long because I start to get really uncomfortable. And I'm like,
exactly.
I'm sweating.
I'm trying to keep my train of thought, and if I stare deeply into your eyes the whole time, I just lose my train of thought. You know what I mean? Like
either that or you're gonna think I'm insane. So yeah. I'm an anxious guy.
Dude, cheers to being awkward. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think most of us are awkward. I think that's the blessing of 2020 is forever. Humans have been walking around trying to prove to each other that we have our shit together, which is not true for anyone. You might have moments of feeling like you have it together, but everyone's just figuring it out.
Yeah.
And so then 2020 happened. And for me, it was kind of like this sigh of relief. Like, no one knows what the fuck's going on. Like,
yeah, everyone's scared as fuck.
Now. Like, no one can be lying to you saying, oh, I got it all figured out. Like, no, you don't. No one does, you know? So I'm appreciative. I'm grateful for 2020, for the time it's given me. I'm not grateful for terrible things happening in the world, in our country, to our economy.
No.
But the things that are happening have been happening. It's just all being really exposed right now. And it's painful to watch. And it's painful to watch people wake up. And it's painful to watch people resist, the truths that have been in front of their eyes for years and years and years. And it's painful to hear other people's accounts, and it's painful to watch people get hurt. But ultimately, our society and our planet is just going through a lot of growing pains right now. And I feel like it used to really get to me. Like he was up on the political stuff all the time. He'd be like, did you hear what happened with the senator? Did you hear what happened here? And I would get pissed. I'm like, dude, don't tell me. I get sad. I just lay in bed and cry because I feel so bad for the world. I'm so sensitive to the shit. And I'm like, I didn't do anything. I just sat around and cried all day. I didn't put any goodness into the world. And so now my perspective is the more bad news I hear or nefarious things happening, the more it drives me to smile and put good things into the world, to talk to every single person I come in contact with in my day, the 7-Eleven guy, the bank teller, whoever, I just, hey, how are you doing today? Smile, share a genuine connection, because I can't save the world. No one person can save the world. No one politician is going to make it right for everyone. We have to be a community together and look out for one another. And if we're so busy in our own heads being bummed about the ways of the world, then we don't contribute any niceness to it, and it just stays the same,
Yeah, and that's something I had to get over, because when COVID first started and everyone was like live streaming and everyone was like, I play guitar, and everyone's like, and I'm like, well, where do I fit in with all this? And I felt guilty. It's like, what am I gonna? I'm gonna go online and sing fucking stupid songs and like make an ass of myself. Like, how is that making the world any better? But then you get a DM here, you get comments there, and people say you're helping. And
because it's not about affecting change to millions of people. If you affect change to one person, if something you say means something or makes one person feel less alone, I think that's where it's really at. Like, none of music is for healing and for communication. It's not for us to be famous and feed our own egos. It's for us to be there for each other because it's the universal language and people feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And this became really apparent to me a couple years ago, right when I first moved here. I went with Norwood. He was speaking on the Far Side's TV show, and they were interviewing him. And the Far Side was like nerding out over Norwood. They're like, without Fishbone, there would be no Far Side. And they're
tight,
just like, da, 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 da. And then a week later, and which I thought was so cute and super cool, because I love the Far. I did grow up on the Far Side. Like, I love Far Side. So I was like, this is so cool to watch these guys nerd out on my best friend,
Yeah.
And then the next week, Norwood hit me up. He's like, hey, I have an extra ticket to the specials in San Diego, and I've never seen the specials live. And so I went with him, and we're talking to Linville after the show, and Norwood's saying the same thing to Linville. I love the specials. If it weren't for the specials, there'd be no Fishbone. Fishbone wouldn't be the same. And I see this chain of events, and it's so, in that moment, I was like, it's not about touching millions of people. These dudes inspired one other dude or five other dudes, and specials and it created a series of great art. I mean, look at all the bands Fishbone's inspired from the jump. Ice-T, No Doubt, Chili Peppers, like
Primus,
Primus, all the cool, all these bands. And so I see where some people can say, oh, well, they didn't have the commercial success of the Chili Peppers or No Doubt had. But their success and who they are as a band and what they represent is, to me, almost even more important than that mainstream success, because they inspired so much art, great art being made. And I think that's where it's at. You know what I mean? Like, not just art, but Angelo with his fashion. I realized the other day, like, I didn't grow up on Fishbone and grow up watching Angelo, but I did grow up on No Doubt and the Chili Peppers, and I was inspired by Gwen Stefani's fashion.
Who was inspired by Angelo.
Who was inspired by Angelo. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, it's all...
It's all connected.
All connected. Yeah. And I just think that we have to remember that, that if we can just connect with one other person and make them not feel alone in the world, that's what the music's for. Doesn't mean you're not doing a good job because you don't have 100 million streams on Spotify. Who gives a shit?
And I feel like a lot of people quantify success with those numbers. And I've had conversations with, like, my friend Mike has a gold record in Germany. Like he found success in the numbers game. But he says, well, he looks at Anderson .Paak, who used to be his drummer, and he's like, yo, Andy Paak like is playing Madison Square Garden. So it's like at every level you're at, you're looking up to, like, I want that.
Yeah, because we're always comparing and try to level up and try to level up and try to level up. And I got to a point as an independent artist, how is it that I stayed steadfast and have my own career and I'm managed an indie artist, but I'm still comparing myself to everybody else?
It's exhausting.
In the machine or not in the machine. And it's like, I don't want to do that. Yeah. I'm the best me. You're the best you.
You're the only you.
There's no competition when you're just being the best you can be.
Yeah.
And you don't have to constantly compare yourself. Everyone's role in life is the role that it's supposed to be, and not everyone's cut out for that role, even if that's the role you want. I mean, truthfully, I don't think being a celeb, for me personally, I don't think being a celebrity is like a super desired thing. Like, I think that's a lot on the human psyche. I think that's a lot of your life being under a microscope, of not having the freedom to just go wherever you want and just being bombarded by strangers. You need to be a certain kind of being to navigate that and handle that. And I learned quickly that I don't think that's what I wanted,
Yeah. Well, yeah, I like going to Trader Joe's and not being bothered. But it's nice, every once in a while, like, having someone recognize you and be like,
no, that's cool. But as long as it's not weird and they're not crying when they come up to you. Like, when I did Warped Tour and we ended up doing Warped Roadies the next year after that TV show came out, at Warped Tour, and just within Warped Tour, like, little, like, kids would come up to me crying, oh my God, I can't believe I'm meeting you. And it would make me so uncomfortable. And I'm like, yo, if this is what it's like, I do not want this. Like, I had to have my driver walk me to the stage because I would get bombarded by people. And it was really overwhelming, especially for someone who has anxiety and social anxiety was like, and then that's actually how I ended up becoming more reclusive. And I felt, because I was wearing that costume and those big eyelashes and all the stuff, that people expected that from me. But I'm really a tomboy. I don't like wearing makeup. And on my off time, I don't want to do that. But I started feeling like people expected that from me. So it made me feel pressure to like take all this makeup on my face and put my eyelashes on before I went to fucking Publix to go grocery shopping in case someone ran into me and expected me to be that person. And it's like, it's too much.
It's too much of a commitment, Yeah. So you were actually on that Warped Tour show. Is it Roadies Warped Tour? Was it on Fuse?
Yeah, Warped Roadies, the second season. Like 2 weeks before Warped Tour, Kevin called me and said, Beebs, we're doing a second season of Warped Roadies and we're going to follow your band the whole summer. And I was like, I thought the show was about roadies. And he's like, yeah, it is, but we're going to follow your band all summer. You're going to be like one of the main characters. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm good on that. And he's like, no, they're coming to your house next week to film you at your house, getting ready for tour. I'm like, nah. Like, I'm not. Because I'm really, like, at this time, especially, I'm super private. No one knows anything personal about me. Every interview I do is in character with the mythology of the band. Like, I don't break character because that was my separation from my personal life and my work, and my stage show. So I'm like, nah, definitely not. And then he convinced me to do it. And so whatever, it happened. And it was a really cool experience. And I learned a lot. And, it was cool. I got to meet my biological brother on that tour, and it's documented on that show.
Oh, wow.
We got to meet for the first time in Detroit because he was living in Detroit.
Nice.
And so that was cool. A lot of cool things came from that. But, and my band did get a lot of exposure from that. And I got and I still continue to get opportunities from that. So I'm grateful for the experience. But, yeah, it was crazy. It was our first big major US tour. It was Warped Tour, which is gnarly. We're driving ourselves, and I'm getting filmed 24/7. It was just like a lot mentally, it was a lot, but it was cool.
Yeah, but you came out unscathed. That's the thing about those night drives when we were doing Warped Tour, because we were like partying during the day, and then we would drive all night. And we had a straight guy, Rob would be the straight driver, but you can't, like, if you're making a 6-7 hour drive and you only have one straight guy to do the whole thing, and that's after being in the sun for fucking 12 hours. It's like, that's.
So you have a 16-hour. The first year we did work. Second year I got a bandwagon and a driver. But the first year we got one of those rocket ships with the bunks in it. So there's 7 of us living in a rocket ship, driving ourselves. And I pretty much, and because everything was under my name, like the rental, the insurance, the everything, I felt like a lot of responsibility to drive. And so I would drive a lot of the nights I lived on 5-hour energy. It was so unhealthy and so scary. Like, we're so lucky we didn't die or nothing bad happened, because it was pretty insane. Yeah,
because when, like, they say that tired driving is just as bad as drunk driving as far as the way your brain reacts, like the slow reaction time. So
waking up at the wheel is the worst feeling.
Been there. Been there. Oh, yeah. Vegas to... Where were we going? We drove from Vegas to Denver in one day. It was like it was ridiculous.
And it's always in that last hour before you hit your destination. You're like, yeah, I'm crushing it. Or that last 30, 15 minutes that you just like start waking up at the wheel. Like,
you hear the rumble strips.
Yeah, you're like,
no, it's no bueno. Okay, so I got maybe like another 10 minutes. I have a physical issue, so I can't sit for longer than an hour and a half. Until it goes away.
Has it been an hour? Have we been talking for?
Yeah, you and I, like, I feel like we're kindred spirits in some way, because the whole, like, being a band leader thing, like everything that you're saying about like having a bunch of band members and all this, I'm just like, oh yeah, I get that. But anyway, let's talk about the Sidewalk project before we cut this. And and you and I could probably bullshit for 3-5 hours. So.
I can't wait to hang out with you, Neil. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I'm a human being.
And your lady. I can't wait to meet your lady as well.
Yeah, Allie's great. She's making dinner right now, and we have to go to the store and get hot sauce. It's a thing. And I shouldn't be sitting down this long. Dude,
I gotta get you my hot sauce. I have a hot sauce.
I would love it. I love hot sauce.
Blueberry habanero. It's delicious.
Oh, I love habanero. I have the Trader Joe's. There's a stuff from Austin, Texas. What the fuck is that brand called? The habanero that I had. Bird. There's a bird on it. Bird. Yellow bird.
Okay.
It's too expensive. It's $8 for a bottle of hot sauce, but it's delicious. But yeah, I don't know where we're going right here. We're talking about hot sauce.
All right, segue into the Sidewalk Project here.
Tell me about that. It's linked in the description of the YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube, please check this out. But Beebs, explain what this is because it's good.
The Sidewalk Project is amazing. You can go to thesidewalkproject.org to learn more. It was started by 3 of my friends, Soma, Snake Oil, Stacy D of Bad Cop, and Emily of Punk Rock and Paintbrushes. And it is an organization that reaches out and goes into houseless communities and brings art and music. Our main strengths and goals right now with the Sidewalk Project is harm reduction. So we just established the first needle exchange program in 26 years in LA County. We have an office downtown, and we provide clean needles for anyone, for addicts and people using on the streets. And we also give out harm reduction kits, like we bring CBD and weed. We bring weed to the streets and things that can help people, feel better. And we also do hygiene kits. We bring wet wipe, anything you need, the streets need, the street communities need too. So it started in the punk rock community, and originally before coronavirus, through punk rock shows, we would do like tampon drives or hygiene kit drives. So if you brought a hygiene kit or a box of tampons, you get money off your ticket, and then we bring those supplies directly to the streets. Most of our volunteers are all trained with Narcan, or people on the team carry Narcan in case someone's overdosing. Mostly what we focus on is harm reduction and public health and safety for our street communities. Soma is a sex worker. She's a dominatrix, and she's the main one that started it. She fights for sex worker rights. Stacy's the musician who brings the musicians into the project, and both of them have been former addicts, and Soma was homeless. Her brother is still houseless on the street. So the project is really personal to everyone. Same thing with Emily, also got off drugs and started Punk Rock and Paintbrushes, and they all came together and said, hey, we can help people through art and music feel better. We don't know initially, we didn't really know what we're doing, but we put a Sidewalk Project band together. Stacy reached out to other musicians. In the beginning, it was Jeff from the Agrolites and Johnny from Old Man Merkley, and they were the Sidewalk Project band. And we go down and play covers and just let the people sing, and we bring art supplies and barbers and shower trucks and food and just kind of throw a party for the community, all while we were learning what the community's needs were and what we could better do to help. And here we are 3 years later with now this needle exchange and an office in downtown. And we also have instructions on the site of how to start your own sidewalk project. So now there's sidewalk projects all over the country. There's one in Phoenix, Tallahassee. There's one in France. There's one in Australia called the Footpath Project. They're all over, and we have weekly Zoom meetings with the leaders of each sidewalk project, kind of going over our protocols. And the best thing I love about Sidewalk is that I love volunteering, and I love giving back, and I love learning. Honestly, I feel like the community of Skid Row has given me way more than I could ever give them, just in perspective and knowledge. I meet so many oracles in that community who just have the most amazing insight and perspective to share with me, and some of the most beautiful voices and talented people. And I'm just so grateful to have been, allowed to interact with the community and in such a deep way and learn so much. But there's no religious affiliation to the Sidewalk Project. It's all through art and music, and that's kind of my favorite thing about it. I respect all religions, and but many times when I wanted to volunteer or do something, it was like through a church, and that church is also pushing their ideas on people who need help, which I think is sometimes it's weird. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need you to believe what I believe for me to be of service to you. And so through art and music, I think is the most beautiful way to connect with people. And so 2 Sundays ago, W. Kamau Bell has a show on CNN called United Shades of America. And he came down to Skid Row last August and filmed with Sidewalk and a bunch of other and LA Can and a bunch of other nonprofits that were down there, and kind of reported on the situation in Skid Row. Skid Row is an actual community that has rights, and it's just a community outside. And he just went through the fact that, like, there's a large homeless population in the 5th largest economy in the world, and that's crazy. Like, why is this happening? And it's continuing to rise, and it goes through all the issues and all these things. So if I would beg people to please watch that episode. It's the newest season, episode 6. I learned so much from watching it, and I was there that day. You know what I mean? He really did a really thorough job in
That's CNN, right?
Crisis.
That's CNN, right?
And then you can buy the episode for like $2 on Amazon. It's
Cool.
called, the show's called United Shades of America, and the show is incredible, and it's so insightful and on so many levels and so many issues. But this particular one is season 5, episode 6, which is the houseless crisis. So there's plenty of ways that you can get involved. I think for me, the biggest asset that Sidewalk has to offer, or that I have to offer, is learning how to communicate with people in your community that are living on the streets, because a lot of times we just walk by people because we don't have money, or we feel like we don't have anything to offer. But you do have something to offer. You have your time, you have a smile. Even if you don't have money and someone's asking for money, just say, I'm sorry, I don't, but how are you? Do you need water? It's been really hot. You know, people can carry a little cooler of water. And if you see a houseless person on the street, just give them water, or, just show people you care. Because when you're down on your luck, or you're going through an addiction, or you're going through a mental health crisis, or you're going through this extreme poverty, it doesn't make things any easier when people are constantly walking past you, ignoring you like you're not even a human being and don't exist. And I think just acknowledging another human being's presence and asking them how they're doing is a really powerful thing. And that's what Sidewalk Projects taught me. So, you can go to sidewalkproject.org to learn more. We're always doing donation drives. And the cool thing, too, is like we get donations, we physically just bring them there. There's no middleman. There's no, You're not just donating to some random charity and then, we're actually bringing it to these communities. And it's been really incredible, and definitely been good for my mental health to not only learn how to self-care for myself, to keep my energy in check, but also to just listen to other people. You know what I mean? Like, just listen to how they're feeling and ask them and have genuine interaction with them. No matter if I don't think there's any difference between people being on pharmaceuticals that live in houses and people self-medicating on the streets with street drugs. It's all the same to me. Whether you're on drugs or not is not going to prevent me from speaking to you. I don't like that argument. Oh, people in the streets have mental health issues and are on drugs. I know plenty of people with mental health issues and on drugs that live in houses. I don't think that should be a reason why we don't talk to each other, interact,
Yeah, some of them are really successful people with mental health issues on drugs.
Yeah, exactly. So, I was thinking that the other day. What's the difference between someone who says they channel people, or a psychic who says they talk to dead people and you pay them for that, and a person who's in the streets talking to themselves, probably talking to another entity or something, hearing what is the difference? One you deem is worthy to give money to, and one you deem crazy. I don't really see the difference.
That's a good point.
In the situation, so it is what it is.
So yeah, talk to more oracles on the street. Gosh.
Yeah, I was telling Neil, I was actually, the day we were doing the W. Kamau thing, I think it was, or maybe the time before, I was just really depressed and not in a good mood, and I didn't want to go down to Sidewalk Project with that vibe. And I was like, you don't want to go spread shit vibes. You need to have your head right and be there for other people. And then I convinced myself to go and suck it up and go, and I was still feeling a little off, but I was interacting with everyone, like, hey, did you get food over here? Hey, did you get stuff? And I was talking to this one lady, and I didn't know she had a stroke or something, but she couldn't speak that well. Or I was having a hard time understanding her. And I was like, hey, did you get food and stuff? And she said, and she was talking to me, but I couldn't understand her. And then she got real close to me and whispered in my ear, she's like, all that darkness you're carrying around, you need to give that to me. You need to be as light as that white car over there. And then she handed me a pack of guitar strings and walked away. And I was like, thank you.
It's like a profound moment.
We all have something to offer each other. I don't care if we're crazy, have mental health issues, we're on drugs. We all have light to bring to each other in different ways. And just because people don't do it the way you want them to doesn't mean it's not possible for them to contribute to,
Well said. And thank you for being so honest about your journey. Like, I anyone who's listened to my show will attest that this is probably the least I've talked, like, in any episode, just because you're just like, you were telling your story. I'm just like, so thank you for that.
Sorry for telling you.
No, because it's good, because it's a perspective you know, all the health issues you had, and all, you know, that it's eye opening, you know, because it's
we
like,
have the power. We're the people. We got the power.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think we have to remind each other of that we have the power to make each other feel better, help each other feel better, be each other's cheerleader, talk about what's working and what's not working in our own lives so we can kind of figure it out, you know, so that we're figuring it out without someone's profit interest in mind, you know.
That's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing.
And on that note, I got to go get hot sauce. Thank you, Beebs, for being here.
Thank you for having me, Neil.
Yes.
You're incredible. My mind is still blown that you saw my urinal stickers.
Dude, I'll never forget that. I look down and I'm just like, they're laughing at me. You know? Yeah.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to hang out and talk with you more.
Yeah.
Thanks to everyone listening. And
thanks.
You're the man. Thank you so much for everything you do.
Yeah, I'm just a dude, just talking, you know?
Just talking.
Just doing the dude talking thing. So if you hit that red button, I'm gonna say something to the camera real quick, and then I gotta bounce.
Okay,
thank you,
bye.
thank you, bye. This was great, thank you. So there you go, episode 52. That was Beebs. Beebs had a story, and we heard that story. Thank you so much for tuning in on a beautiful Friday. I can't sit for any longer. I'm gonna get yelled at. I'm gonna get someone's gonna fucking fire a hose at me. It's true. We're gonna get hot sauce. We're gonna have some food. Love you. Take care of yourself. Stay positive. Love each other, be nice, and all the things. And, you know, there's links below. There's a Patreon. There's the whole thing. I got to go. Love you very much. I'm going to hit this button. Thank you so much for coming. Friday night, just like TGIF.